Good morning, Steve Barcelo. I'm in my hotel room. I'm getting ready to head out soon. I'm still down in South Carolina, this fancy room, and I got my silly dog. If you hear some noise over here, it's Christmas in the bed next to me. I think she's ready to hit the road too, but it's too early. I haven't had my cup of coffee yet. It is like 5 o'clock in the morning. I've been up since, I don't know, 3:30. Just don't sleep well anymore. So, we're pretty well packed. I just got laptop paperwork. Here, I guess I'll give you a view of what I'm doing here. Let's see, files over here. Laptop bag. Notes. Puppy dog. A little silly stand for my phone here. All right, so today I want to get another little video done. I'm trying to get some of these things done while I'm waiting for coffee. I didn't bring my coffee pot. I usually travel with a coffee pot, and I just didn't bring it. Was ill prepared. So I'm going to talk about Peter Hackett, Dr. Peter Hackett today. Yesterday I went off a little bit. I'm going to go more deep dive into all these more. These are just superficial things I'm going over, and part of it's just to clear my head and get things. Now you can remember, I'm dealing with things that primarily happened when I was there. And I talked about Rex Heuerman yesterday. He came in after I was gone. I basically semi-retired, moved out. So he wasn't on the radar when I was there. But I'm following up on that, and that's obviously a major part of the story. But Peter Hackett was a huge part when I was still there. And the parts about Peter that I'm going to go into, I would talk to Peter. I had his phone number. I was able to call him. Now, he doesn't return my calls now. I don't even know if his number still is actual. I don't think it's the same number anymore. Doesn't seem to be. But we even talked to some of the other journalists. They'll say, like, every time we saw Peter pull up, he would always flag me over to find out, like, what was going on and that sort of stuff. Now, personally, do I think Peter was involved with all the murders? I don't know. We'd have to get a better connection. There's rumors out there that there's a connection between Peter Hackett and Rex, but I'd have to see more on that before I could really say anything on that. I mean, I'm just going to go into what I know, what he told me, things that he told Mari Gilbert. And I was out there with Mari Gilbert a lot, things that Mari told me that happened. Now, there's a lot of things here that don't make sense. Now, we all know Shannon came running out of Joe Brewer's house. He was declined. She was on a 911 phone call. I think it was 22 minutes. I don't have those notes right there. They're all piled right there. But that's not part of this part anyway. So, and the process of knocking on Gus Coletti's door while she was with Gus Coletti, Pac pulls up. Gus talks to him, says he called 911. Pac splits. Shannon runs off. We don't know exactly which trail she took, but there's two different ways she could have easily gotten down to Barbara Brennan's house. She bangs on Barbara Brennan's door. Barbara calls 911, doesn't answer the door. Now, I was told back then Barbara Brennan called Peter Hackett. That's how he got involved in this thing. And he did listen to scanners. He was supposedly involved with Suffolk County Police on some level, working with Flight 800, and I was told dealing with the dive teams and some other things. I was even told that he carried a badge. He would run up to accidents on the bridge and flash a badge and, trying to be helpful, things of that sort. But, so he used to like to involve himself in things. So, but if that makes a big connection. If we can get Barbara Brennan or some other people that remember that whole beginning. This is very, very much fresh in the beginning. A lot of these little facts were kind of thrown out there, and kind of people just skipped over them because we didn't realize how big this story was going to get. At that point, we had a couple of bodies up on the Ocean Parkway, and now we heard about this young female that went missing, a sex worker that went missing in the closed community of Oak Beach. Back to Peter Hackett. So supposedly at this point, he's called and he gets a hold of Shannon. Now, the question everyone says is, why would she go with him? And I talked to Peter quite a bit. Peter had that FM voice. He was very disarming. He would tell me, Steve, I'm going to take you fishing. What I do is not fishing, it's catching. You ever want a coffee or you want a bourbon, you come on by. He was that kind of guy, just a nice guy, big guy. I mean, I wouldn't want to get in a boat with him or anything like that, but maybe he'd never come back to shore. But that being said, he was very disarming. He had that way around him. He is a doctor. I mean, so people just know to trust doctors and stuff. I could see Shannon acquiescing to his ways, just saying, come with me, I can help you, I can do this. And he did eventually, of course, make the famous phone call to Shannon. And Mari Gilbert, her mom. And Mary stayed with that story from day one, that she got the call from Peter Hackett. He said he ran a home for wayward girls in the community, which he does not, never did, and gave her a sedative. These are the main things. Wanted to make sure she was okay, that she got home okay. And then that opens up a whole can of worms, this phone call. Now, he later recanted and said he didn't make the phone call, but then they were able to prove he did make the phone call. But of course, now they don't have the information of what he said, what Mayor said. But she was consistent. Now, I interviewed Peter multiple times, talking to him. But the very first time I really talked to him about Shannon, he took me to the jetty across from his house, right out front. And we stood on the jetty. He said, Steve, last time I saw her, she was heading that way. And he pointed out to the canal, the water rushing by. And I'll put up maps showing this areas. And so he admitted to me that he had seen her. Didn't talk about, I don't recall him mentioning, he definitely didn't mention the home of wayward girls to me. I do not recall if he said he gave her a sedative. I think if he did, that would be burnt in my brain. I think I only heard that from Mari Gilbert's original phone call. But he did admit to me that he did see her. And so basically, at that point, I knew that he, by talking to other people, he had a bridge in his backyard off his property that would go down so he can go into the swamp behind his house. And they said he liked to traverse the swamp back there, which goes back to later. That's where her personal belongings are found. Personal belongings are found in pristine condition. And there's some arguments on what I'm seeing online to what's there, what I remember Mayor telling me. But I know it was like pants, shoes, phone, some kind of like a wallet with money, and lip gloss. And I don't remember what else was there, but in pristine condition. I remember Mayor even just talking about the shoes, how like they looked like they were basically brand new, like she just took them off. And that personal belongings were found. Let's see. Do I have it here? I think it's December 6th, 2011. Her body was found after this. And we had to convince them to go even look behind his house. They kept saying, oh, no, he's good, because they all knew Dr. Hackett. And her body was found December 13th. It's skeletal remains. So obviously it's been there since probably damn near the day she went gone, went missing. And apologize, I'm half asleep. Haven't had my coffee. So anyway, just there's too many things in this little bubble we're talking about. Discrepancies, the phone call, him putting himself in there. Like, how did he have Mayor's number? How did he have Shannon's mom's number? Well, if he had her phone, he had access to it. I know later he said people came looking for her and and he got the number from PAC or someone like that. But I mean, there was plenty of time for the story to change. But I mean, if you already had the phone, I mean, someone had her personal belongings. They got dumped shortly before things went awry. And I remember one time I was up by the gate. It's a closed community, and we were at that point. They were doing a search. They didn't want any of the media into the community there, even though I had access to a couple of the homes. I even had keys, the whole bit. And I remember Peter Hackett and his daughter pulled in, and I went up to him. He's like, you can see he sees all the activity. So I go up to him and I say, listen, they're searching behind your house. So I want to see what his reaction was. And he looked horrified. He did. He's like, oh my God. And he went back. And apparently later I heard that the police well, he let them into the house. They stood on the back deck and used that because almost as an observation thing. And it was a very cordial thing. Like, I guess, it's still at that point, they don't, and to today, they don't look at him as a suspect. So, whatever. I think he had something to do with Shannon's disappearance. Like I said, once again, if he gave her medication, gave her anything, I mean, Mom told me, Mari Gilbert, that Shannon was bipolar. And she was horrified of water. She couldn't swim. So knowing some of these things now, and you hear on the 911 phone call, she doesn't sound rational. She sounds out, like she's on something. Doesn't sound clear. Now, I never knew her. So I'm going by what little bit I got from people who did know her and said that she didn't sound right. So was she high? Was she given something, or did she take something to Joe Brewer's house at the so-called party? Was she off her meds? Was she taking her meds and something else she took, reacted with them? But then you've got Peter Hackett later, Dr. Hackett, saying he gave her a sedative. So if she's already got stuff in her system and something's been administered to her, I mean, that could be the issue here, where she dies, wanders off, whatever, we don't know what happened, and somehow ends up out in the swamp. Basically naked, I mean, mostly unclothed. I mean, her shoes, her pants are off. I mean, I can't see her stripping down and losing the very things that were her lifeline, her phone, her money. I mean, running through a swamp, and people who want to talk about the swamp too, that's another thing I go into. We reenacted with Johnny Ray. I was out there with him, his wife, 48 hours. And we went out the same time of year, same time of the evening, and reenacted the whole thing, went out there and went through the swamp. And I was carrying a video camera on one shoulder, a still camera around my neck, a Nikon D3, which are very heavy. And I'm out there with these big goofy boots on. I had Tyvek on, so I looked like a big Q-tip. So I was not wearing the best clothes. So if I was wearing like regular street clothes, tight shoes and stuff, I would have had no issue. I kept on losing my stupid rubber boots because they were loose, these big yellow things. But we made it, no problem, and got to the point where the body was found and everything else. And the story that was given by the police at that point was that she wandered out there like a moth drawn to lights at the parkway, and that she, eventually succumbed to whatever and just laid down and died. Well, first, the water was not that deep where her body was found. If she would have been submerged, the roadway would have been submerged. We were out there, we saw this stuff. It wasn't, was there some of the stuff difficult to get through? Yeah, but it's life and death. I mean, we did it. I was carrying camera equipment and stuff. I mean, it wasn't that difficult. And but if it was life or death, hell yeah. And she was small and petite. She would have had all the much easier way to get between these things. There were still deer trails up in that area too. And now, the time of the year we were there reenacting her whole situation, it was by the time she was, being out there, running away from people, the sun was starting to come up in the distance. It's not like this is a forest. This is all scrub stuff. I mean, the lights are there, you can see. The street lights still would have been on, but you can still see things. You can see the homes. And then they even reenacted where they would scream, help, help. I think they were screaming mommy at one point. And then people positioned, and everyone could clearly hear. I mean, if anyone called for help or anything, nothing made sense. So, we beat a lot of these things to death, and this is why I just want to revisit. We did reenact this stuff. Yeah, so I was very involved back then. I'm going to get back involved again. Doing some more. I'm going to have to go back to Long Island to do some more interviews and just follow up. I'm going through all my old hard drives. I'm finding a lot of really wild stuff. There's a lot of things I never talked about just because of friendships and things that Mari Gilbert asked me not to say. You got to remember back then she was talking about, first until the body was found, we never knew if Shannon was actually dead or not. We always hopeful that maybe somehow she wandered off, like the police are saying. They kept on saying she's not here. This is what sex workers and hookers do. They go to Vegas, they go to Atlantic City. So that's another thing. that a lot of these things say that they're out looking for Shannon. They weren't looking for Shannon. And I can show you in the documentation. It was a training exercise. As a matter of fact, I'm going to see if I can find it right now. There are so many files here. This is why I need to do these videos. Another canine officer out of Nassau County, I saw him doing an interview. Michael Gould, I'm going to be reaching out to him. He said even he used the Ocean Parkway as a training place for their cadaver dogs. So it was a common place to do cadaver training. They were not looking for Shannon. And if I can find it here, I think it might be, I've got so much stuff. Yeah, I've got the old original missing posters and stuff in here. I mean, I've got the stuff here. I apologize. This is me with no coffee. Yeah, I think I still got files out in the vehicle. Anyway, so I'll photograph it and mix it in here, and I'll show you guys that the original thing said it was a training exercise. So I think it was John Blair was out there with Dog Blue, and that was what they were doing. Actually, once they found they were out there, they had this tube that had cotton in it and body fluids, and the whole thing was someone would go out and place it because you don't get cross-contaminated. And yeah, I don't see it here. I'm gonna have to go and get it in the vehicle. But yeah, so basically the dog runs past what it should be hitting on a training, and it goes up and it hits on this thing, and it turns out it's the initial body, and that's when we got called in. Body found at the beach. At that point, we don't know anything. I don't think they knew much. It was all decomposed and stuff, but it turns out it'd be a female wrapped in camo burlap, and we found out all that stuff much later. And then he goes back, I believe that, I gotta get the time frame on that. I think it was a couple of weeks later. And he's gonna train the dog on the actual spot where his body was found, which is ideal. It's real world training. And the dog runs past, finds 2 more bodies, and that's when all hell breaks loose. And that's when we lived in the process, and now this is becoming a big story right in my own backyard, because I lived in Bayshore at the time. And that's what we've heard about Shannon. I'm trying to remember Shannon. I think it was my desk that reached out and said there's a missing girl in Oak Beach, and I knew Oak Beach. Like I said, I knew people lived there. And Oak Beach always had that stigma. It was one of those places, it was that closed community. And I always heard about, they had sex parties there, and there would be a basket, and the men would throw their keys in the basket, and women would grab keys like their eyes shut, and whoever's keys they got, that's who they were with for the night, sort of thing. And they never knew if that was true. It was just kind of, you know, stupid stories that were told, these closed communities, you know. Well, once I get into this whole story and start working, it's like, holy geez, there were sex parties going on here, and they involve professionals, and even some of these people tell me, I love a pro, and just the story just got crazier and crazier and crazier, and it still hasn't stopped. So I'm kind of going off on a tangent. I tend to do this. This is why I need to do these, and that's why when I dictate things and I go through, it's like, oh my God, here I just, you know, something shiny, and I'm off and heading in that direction. But it's just too many things don't make sense. I honestly think Peter definitely called Mari Gilbert. I think he definitely said he ran a home for wayward girls, and I think he did tell her that he gave her a sedative. He told me he saw her and pointed on the jetty, pointing out there, which made me once again want to look behind his house, where later she was found. And I was told that he did like to go out there. But her belongings are found. Get the puppy looking at me. Before her body was found. Her belongings found, pristine condition, body, skeletal remains. I mean, this doesn't make sense. And then later we have these podcasters and stuff saying, oh, they were looking for Shannon. They weren't looking for Shannon. They didn't care. They didn't care. And at that point, they didn't think she was dead. So, and if they're going to be looking for her, why wouldn't they be looking in Oak Beach instead of up by Gilgo, up the road? I mean, they weren't even close. It just doesn't make sense. So that's a falsehood, and that frustrates the hell out of me every time I see one of these shows start off like, well, they were looking for this. And I think that was one of the local newspapers that came up with that story. And I remember in the beginning we were told it was a training exercise, and somewhere along the way I think that spin sounded good, made it look like the police are doing their job better, and it just stuck. And you tell a lie long enough, people believe it. And that one's not accurate. So anyway, that's kind of where I am at this one. I'm not going to go too much longer. I see I'm already like 20 minutes. I've over talked this. I want to keep these around, I'm trying to keep around 12 minutes, these shorts. These will all be combined into bigger stories. This makes me life easier if I can do these piece by piece. I'm going to go back in like I've hit. I'm going to be back on Peter. I'm going to be talking more about Rex. I hit on Rex the last video. I still want to go a lot more into, of course, Mare and Shannon, which I'm hitting on now, at least the beginning, but I'll go back through and more of a deep dive there. Jimmy Burke, I've got a lot to talk about Jimmy Burke. I used to go drinking with the guy. I knew him pretty well. And then I'm just all the other tie-ins. Joe Brewer coming by my house. Kid you not. I mean, so I've got a lot of stuff that most people don't have. And of course, my involvement with Johnny Ray as a friend got him to do pro bono work for Shannon Gilbert. When I said I retired, moved down to North Carolina, you rat bastard, you got me involved in this, now you're leaving me. So, and he's done a phenomenal job. And I know a lot of people aren't happy with some of the stuff he's done, but he's done this pro bono. He's taken it on the bull by the horns. And I think if it wasn't for Johnny really pushing, I don't think like the 911 tape ever would have been released. I don't know if the task force ever would have been started. I think he gets a lot of credit for a lot of this stuff. But that's me. I'm going to let you go. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Put notes down below. I'm going to try to keep these going. It's going to be a whole series. And I'm still researching. I'm still digging. I'm still going through my old hard drives. I've got, like, without exaggeration, 20-some hard drives at this point I'm digging through. I'm pulling them out of all my old laptops. Half the laptops, I don't even remember the passwords anymore. And back then I was using PCs and Macs and everything, so it's crazy. I just got into a big G drive, which has got gold on it. It's got crazy stuff on it. So I'm going through that, but my files are just nuts. The way I labeled things there, I don't know why they are the way they are. And but it's been a roller coaster ride. I've been kind of taking a back seat for a while, reinventing myself down here, being mayor commissioner in a little town, running a crazy museum in North Carolina. But I'm getting back in. I've never left it. Never. This is one of those stories that can never leave you, especially the way it's been. So I've got a lot more to go through, dig through. And thanks for watching. I'll talk to you all soon.